I found out that my mother used my college fund to take a long vacation to Europe after she disowned me, so I took her to court and got much more than what she stole from me. I unfortunately lost my dad suddenly 2 years ago. My dad was an alcoholic, so I didn't have a good relationship with him. He was often verbally and emotionally abusive to me as a kid, so I stopped talking to him about 2 years before he passed. His death came as a shock to me since I never thought he would pass away so young. My dad didn't have any other children, and my parents were divorced at the time of his death. I am an only child who has no other relatives that I'm close to. I ended up having to decide everything once my dad passed, which put a lot of stress on me since I was grieving horribly. My mom, seeing how stressed and overwhelmed I was, offered to be the one to close his bank account, which I accepted since she told me there was barely any money left in his account. Besides closing his bank account, my mom didn't offer me much support since she was super bitter about the divorce. She is also a very cold person in general. A couple of days later, she started complaining about how I needed to move on and asked why I cared when he wasn't a good dad. She even said that I needed to care about the living parent and not the dead one. Even though I wasn't speaking to him at the time of his passing, I still had a hard time accepting his death. In the back of my mind, I always thought at some point, he would be able to overcome his addiction and come back to us as a changed person. About a month after my dad's passing, my boyfriend and I were up at his apartments picking up some paintings. We were getting ready to head back when I got a call from my mom. She told me that she was in the hospital because she had a stroke. Luckily, when I got there, she was recovering just fine. She had trouble walking, but the doctors said she would be okay. My mom was in the hospital for about a week. Once she was better and released from the hospital, I went back home to help take care of her. Just like any stroke patient, she needed help doing basic things, and I was there for her as much as I was able to. She refused to get a temporary nurse to help her for some reason, so it was all on me, which I was okay with. One of the side effects of having a stroke is short temporaries and memory problems. The doctor said to expect these things, so when she started getting angry at me for no reason, I didn't let it get to me. A couple of weeks went by, and she is healing a lot and doesn't need as much help doing basic things anymore, but I noticed her short temper and anger weren't improving. She constantly would argue with me over little things. Then, one day, we had a conversation about me going to my boyfriend's house while she was at the hospital. She was holding a major grudge against me because she viewed that as me abandoning her and that I didn't do enough for her. I explained my side of things to her and talked to her about how I called every day, visited her, and needed support as well. She ignored all of my feelings and said that I was an ungrateful daughter and that I only cared about the dead parent and not the alive one. I was so upset over this because I felt that my feelings did not matter to her, which is something I have always struggled with growing up with my mom. When I was a kid, whenever I was upset, a lot of the time, she would tell me to get over it, or it was not a big deal. One time, when I had a panic attack, she shook me really hard and yelled at me to stop. But whenever she was upset over something my dad drunkenly said to her that hurt her feelings, she would cry to me, and I would comfort her however I could. I had to become an adult at a very early age because of them, and her saying those hurtful things to me that day made me so upset I ended up going back to my boyfriend's for a few weeks until it was time for me to move into the dorms at my new college. Once school came around, I was not ready. I was still badly grieving and was super anxious to the point of panic attacks once I moved into the dorms. I hadn't been in dorms before, so it was a lot to take in. I also relied on my college fund, which my dad set up when I was born, to pay for me to attend college. My mom, who had all the control over my college fund, started being weird when I texted her asking about when she is going to pay out of the college fund for the term. I asked over and over again when she would pay it. She kept saying, "I'll get to it, and don't worry about it." As the week came closer to an end, I realized that she wouldn't pay for my college, and I would be stuck with a $15,000 bill and no way to pay it. So, I made a hard decision and dropped out of school. After dropping out and telling my mom that she missed the deadline, she told me that she was once again disappointed in me and that I wasn't allowed to move back in with her because I stressed her out too much, and she thought I'm abusive. She also said that she would take the baseball cards that my dad collected with me, as well as some paintings he got in the divorce. My dad's baseball cards and paintings were the only physical items I could get from his apartment. I was absolutely devastated after she told me this, so I ended up leaving again at my boyfriend's parents' house after explaining the situation to them. Over the next 6 months, I attempted several times to contact my mom regarding my college fund as well as to get help with paying for my dad's burial of his urn but got no answer. My mom also decided to take me off her insurance as soon as I was kicked out, so that was a fun surprise when I had a UTI and needed to go to the hospital. It took a while for me to process everything because, over a month or two, I essentially lost my entire family and technically became homeless. I decided after 6 months that I was ready to go to community college. I also decided that one last time, I would ask my mom about my college fund. When I went to ask my mom about it, over text, I was told that she had gone back to college, which I told her I was supportive of since I assumed she meant using her own money, but she went on to say she was using my college fund for herself. I was shocked and angry. My mom promised me I would never have to worry about paying my way through college like she did. She already had a bachelor's degree and over 30 years of job experience. She also never told me she would use my college fund. On top of that, she made a lot of money in her last job. From what I could guess, she made well over $100,000 annually. So, there was no question of whether or not she could afford it on her own. I asked her how long she had been using my college fund, and it turned out my mom had been using it for herself since I last attended college before I had to drop out 6 months ago. I was angry and texted her, "How could you do this? Dad made that for me, and you promised that it was mine." My mom, in response, texted back that I was disgusting and money hungry and that she needed it more than me. Outraged and heartbroken, I decided to get a lawyer. I wanted to get a lawyer since my college fund was set up by my dad, so I believed that I had a case. Also, my mom took all my dad's assets, and I wanted to get them back. Long story short, I got a lawyer, and the whole process took over a year to complete. Essentially, we had to redo their divorce, divide the assets, and claim me as the beneficiary. She fought and stalled the whole time. This could have been done in a couple of months, but she stalled it for over a year and cost both of us a lot of money because of it. I was able to strike a deal with my lawyer not to have to pay until the matter was over. I also had to take out a loan. In the end, I ended up winning the case. We discovered that the bank account that she told me had almost nothing in it actually had around $90,000 in it. I ended up getting $45,000 of that. I also got half of his retirement plans, the baseball card collection, which is worth around $50,000, and the paintings. We also learned that at some point after she kicked me out, she took a long trip to Europe using the remainder of my college fund. She had to reimburse me for that. As of today, I have not spoken or texted my mother in over 2 years. I am waiting for the retirement agency to process all of the retirement accounts to go to me, so I haven't seen any money other than the baseball cards and the paintings. My boyfriend and I moved out of his parents' house into an apartment. He's a full-time teacher, and I'm still working through college. Luckily, financial aid has helped me out a lot. We have plans on getting married one day once things settle down a bit, and right now, I'm just trying to figure out where my place is in the world and how I can move forward after everything.